Thank you all for being here. I'd like to call our regular meeting of the Town Plan and Zoning Commission to order. Today is Monday, December 4th, 2023 at 6:30-ish p.m. My name's Rob Klee. I'm the chair of our Woodbridge Plan and Zoning Commission. Other members of the commission who are here with us tonight include Paul Schatz, Jeff Kennedy, Kathy Hunter, Chadi Nujim, Aaron Hoffman, and our newest member, Benjamin Cherry, but you go by Ben, right?
That's right, yeah.
So welcome. Thanks for joining us. We are, as usual, ably supported by Chris Sullivan, our town land use analyst and zoning enforcement officer. It's nice to be here in person. It's nice to see all of you and even some members of the public. Our agenda tonight is available on the town website. Tonight we have, Chris, what I'm going to call a continuation of a public hearing, because that's how it was referenced.
No, it's actually no, it's not a continuation.
It's not a continuation. So it is just a public hearing.
Yeah.
Thank you. On the Toll Brothers application for 1722 Litchfield Turnpike, which is an application for a special permit exception for earth removal, fill, and regrading regarding the development of an active adult community. We have then some work in our work session, and because we're light on other things, we're going to tackle some of the big rewrites or the updates to our planning and zoning regs today for at least a portion of the evening. So now I'd like to call our public hearing for the Toll Brothers special permit application to order, and who would like to begin for the applicant? And the applicant, please state your name, sign in, and welcome back.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Joe Williams. I'm a partner in the law firm of Shipman & Goodwin at 265 Church Street in New Haven. Practice land use and environmental law. It's good to be with you again. Proud to be representing Toll Brothers. You're all very familiar with the development. You at 1710, 1722 and neighboring properties on Litchfield Turnpike and Bradley Road. You approved it just over a year ago. Toll Brothers is well underway. I'm sure you've seen it on the south side of Bradley Road. The grading portion that is the subject of tonight's permit is done on the south side, and construction is well underway. It's looking pretty good in my humble opinion. I was just there tonight. Houses are going up. There's a sales center there, so well underway, and they're well within the 5 years, by state statute for a site plan, but you all require an annual renewal of the excavation permit. So we are here requesting a one-year renewal of the excavation permit for the north parcels on the north side of Bradley Road. Don't expect we'll need it again. Toll Brothers plans to start grading on those properties in April. And will be done, it believes, well within a year, and we'll continue on and build out the project. Everything's going according to Hoyle, to the best of my knowledge, in accordance with the plans and the permits and approvals that you gave previously. We're not requesting any changes to the approved plans, and we'll continue to follow them. And all of the stipulations and plans and specifications that we gave you with regard to excavation and grading will continue in place.
Thank you for that presentation. That was going to be my one and only question, that there are no changes, alterations, or from the plans that we previously approved.
Correct.
Other members of the commission, do you have questions for the applicant?
I should just note real quick, it's not a renewal. It did expire, so this is a new permit, just so you know.
Okay. That's true.
Yes, thanks for that clarification. So this is a new permit, but only for the north
side
property at 1722, but for all other intents and purposes, it is exactly the same as the thing that we already approved for the north side. Any other questions for the applicant? Seeing none, thank you very much for that presentation and for coming to give it. I'd now like to move to, this is a public hearing, so we'll move to our public comment portion. The public hearing is for purposes of listening to comments from the public. Any member of the public who wishes to do so will have 3 minutes for a brief statement into the record. Our TPZ members and the applicants will not be answering any questions that you may raise. Your public statements and written comments that were submitted to the town will become part of the public record for the TPZ to consider as we consider this application. As a reminder to everyone, any off-the-record communication with a member of the commission on the merits of the application is prohibited. I ask that members of the public who choose to make comments be brief and focused on the proposed special exception permit and try to avoid unreasonable repetition so we can hear all the concerns that you and your neighbors may have. So I'd like to invite members of the public who are interested in making a comment to come forward. If you do want to make a comment, please sign in and state your name for the record. I will ask again if there's any members of the public interested in making a public comment. Third time's a charm. Once, going twice, going three times. So I see that we don't have additional comments from the members of the public. So we now need a motion to close the public hearing of the application for a special exception permit for Toll Brothers for earth removal, fill, and regrading at 1722 Litchfield Turnpike.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the closure of the public hearing? Hearing none. All in favor of close? Well, actually, who's voting? Do we need to?
You need to see one of your alternates.
One of our alternates. Is any one of our alternates interested in?
Either way.
Aaron, you're
We have
just
a battle royale
Aaron.
to figure out who it is.
Aaron said something, which means Aaron is the alternate who's seated.
Well done.
Yeah. All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? So the public hearing is closed. Thank you very much. I note on our agenda there was no new business today, so we can move directly to our work session where we can have consideration and appropriate action regarding, let's do first, the Toll Brothers application for a special permit for earth removal, fill, regrading relative to the development of their active adult community on the parcel at 1722 Litchfield Turnpike. Do I have a motion to approve their application?
So moved.
Moved in a second. Seconded by Aaron. Any discussion on the application? I appreciate that it is exactly the thing that we approved before, and for that reason, I'm happy to vote in favor of approving it again. Any further discussion? We'll seat the same folks who voted on the motion to close the public hearing. All in favor of approving the application, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Well done.
Passes. Do we need a date or anything?
It's a year from today.
Okay, and the effective date, not, any other logistical things?
Nope, you're good.
We're good.
Because the bond and everything that you have in place for the whole project is still there, so we're good.
Great.
Great job.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you very much.
They're done. If that's what you came for.
I wanted to just see if they were coming close to my property with excavation.
The plans are downstairs, so you can stop by and look at them. Or,
Because there's a big tree line that I wanted to see preserved.
well, they've closed the public hearing, Michael, so if you want to stop by, I can show you the plans. It's the same ones that
They
we've
were
had.
confused about the property line before. They were walking along my property.
There's no grading going up to your property line, no.
Okay. I just want to make sure they're not going to excavate or take every tree out that's on the property line. That was my only concern.
They are entitled to do so if they wish.
This will all wildlife is. Okay. I will just watch them as they're doing things.
Thanks. Next up, Chris, do we have the approval of our schedule for meeting for 2024?
Yeah, I gave you all a draft
Yep.
copy.
Yep,
And I
we
just
should
need a
have.
second pair of eyes to make sure that I'm not, the dates I've given don't conflict with anything where it shouldn't conflict.
These are the same dates you emailed, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Paul, do you know holiday schedules?
Yeah, they don't, the only thing I didn't double check was, real quickly.
I try to download the schedule and of dates and what dates work shouldn't occur
Yeah.
on, so I try.
what I see.
Yeah, Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah would be the ones I would.
Yeah, things right in between.
Okay. Anyone else have dates that they're concerned about? Are we all still comfortable with our 6:30 meeting time? Seems to have worked okay.
Yes. And these dates require a vote, right, with the vote in favor of them? Yeah. They look
Yeah,
okay.
you
Yeah.
adopt them for the.
Adopt
And then
them.
they get posted. And
Yeah, okay.
All right, so a motion to approve the draft meeting schedule for the calendar year 2024 and the first meeting of 2025, which is included in that calendar.
So moved.
And I'll second it. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Chavi?
Special sessions for working regulations, do they need to go in here?
No.
Nope.
This is just the regular meeting schedule, so then anything else is considered a special meeting, and you just schedule them at the convenience of the members.
And they are noticed a
And
week.
were appropriately noticed.
Yeah. Any further discussion? All in favor of the meeting schedule, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Great. Thank you for pulling that together, Chris. All right. Do we want, so we're being very efficient, so
Great job.
I'm trying. Well, it now means we have time to look at the big, sort of,
The big book.
the big book or computer. Unless, do we want to quickly, Andrew's not here to report on SCROG. Do we want to sort of tick off our other to-do items and then
Sure,
just
yeah.
spend a concentrated amount of time on the update to the regulations? So we did put on the calendar a discussion of our update to the town plan of conservation and development. Was that for us to ensure that we're hiring a consultant and
Yeah.
making the appropriate, so anything to report from either budget or,
You initially were given, if I'm correct, $10,000 for this year, with the understanding that it should probably go higher than that. But at least that gives you some starting funds. So,
in the process for hiring a consultant?
I get confused between an RFP and an RFQ. One of those two documents is written. I can send you all the sample from the last time that it was done, so that if you feel fit to review it and edit it and whatnot, and then it's distributed appropriately out there. And then the last time this was done, there were members of the commission that interviewed, as well as then first selectman, and I was there, and Terry was there. So whoever you choose to bring in to interview, and then you create a short list and go from there.
Okay, and what should be our sort of timeline for accomplishing that and getting
So-
someone on board? I think relatively
Well, you
soon.
need to have a new town plan in place by May of 2025. So typically, a professional consultant will get all the boilerplate stuff done. That typically includes, interviewing all the other commissions or committees or boards within the town to make sure that their input is in there. But clearly, there are areas of the plan that you yourself, as a commission, want to, focus on and look at, areas where you really may feel there need to be some changes in there or updates and whatnot. So you should be reviewing the existing town plan just to see what those areas may be. And, so you can start that discussion amongst yourselves about how you wish to, if there are those things that you want to do, how you wish to address those within the plan.
And I guess we're sharing the microphone. In terms of the review of the POCD, is there other like commissions or committees that weigh into that? I'm just thinking like the Housing Committee or Conservation Committee or.
Typically, what's happened before is that the consultants have gone and visited and spoken with them. You can also, bring people to you to discuss and whatnot. So that's where it's your choice what you want to do. But there has always been input from other boards and commissions within the framing of the town plan.
I'm just thinking in terms of the framing of I'm not sure if we're doing a RFQ or RFP, just to have input into how that's framed, because I would think
Not on that section, no. It's only been afterwards because it's solely within your charge to update the town plan.
Right, but it should be in concert with the fact that we now have a housing plan, and that would need to be incorporated into the POCD.
That's no different than when the open space plan gets incorporated and whatnot. That's part of what will get adopted into the town plan. But the actual description of the RFP or RFQ is written by you guys.
Okay. I just think we should have a time frame for that to get out, because I think that should go out very soon, so if we could
Yeah,
probably,
well, that's why I'm gonna,
yeah, get that
send
out.
you a sample so that the meeting in January, you can sit down, review it, come up with an idea. I can double check with Tony Genovese to see if there's any input that the finance department has to do and whatnot.
And
Or,
Remind me again
publication.
of the process. Does the Board of Selectmen have a role in our town planning of conservation development at all, or are they another entity to
They're
which
just
there's a
another-
presentation?
Just another
I know.
entity. It's your purview.
Okay.
I mean, you do have a public hearing on it, so that, any board or commission or a public member of the public can come and weigh in. It does go to the regional, South Central Regional Planning Commission and whatnot. So there's plenty of room for people to weigh in and comment, and then you can revise or do whatever in response to what you hear.
So I think, yes, having us prepared for January's meeting which is right at like January
Second.
2nd. Painful. Have us teed up before that with a sample of the last time we did this, or a similar RFP or RFQ, whichever the town advises us is the route that we should go. For our reading enjoyment over the holidays, if you could just reshare the link or make sure everyone has the current plan of conservation.
It's on the town plan, or on the Town Plan and Zoning Commission's website.
Right. So that would be a good homework assignment before January for those who would like to give it a read.
Chris, last time, I may be wrong, remembering this wrong, but last time I remember, we divided it up, like, section by section among the commission members. Do you remember that?
No.
You don't? I remember Jeff, assigning, not you, Jeff, the other Jeff.
Kaufman.
The yeller Jeff. I remember Jeff assigned sections to people.
That was when we were doing the zoning regulations,
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, we haven't done this in 10 years.
10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
This is a statutory requirement, right? The state of
Correct.
Connecticut requires all towns to do this?
Yes.
Okay.
Everyone should have as much fun as we will.
They do, everyone will enjoy it. And when we put out the RFP, how does that go out? Like, is it an
That's
announcement?
what I'm gonna double check with Tony Genovese on, because I'm not, it's been 10 years, I don't remember whether we put it in the newspaper that nobody reads, or if there are agencies out there, or how we do it. I will verify with Tony how we get it out there.
On a state portal, they have.
Yeah.
The state portal will,
Yeah.
there are folks who are,
CCM has stuff in, yeah.
there are folks who are looking at the state portal for those types of RFP
Yeah.
opportunities.
Chris, you mentioned $10,000 for this year. Is that a calendar year, a fiscal year?
It's a fiscal year. If I remember correctly, the last town plan cost in the vicinity of 63,000.
Okay.
So,
When does the fiscal year end? Next September?
July 1st.
July, okay, all right. So we're not,
That's when the new one starts.
we'll spend it by then.
Yeah.
That'll be enough to engage someone.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've got my homework, I will get it to you. and
When did you say it was due again?
May
it's
2025.
May 15th, 2025 is when we have to have it adopted.
So if it has to be adopted by the 15th, is there a certain schedule of when things have to go out for review and approval?
We have to, yeah, there's a time frame that you back into. But typically, when you get the quote from a consultant, they will work that into their calendar, and they'll come to meetings with you to go through who they've met with, what they've done, and as they work on it, they give you that updated plan.
So for the whole state, is everyone working on it for the year 2025, or is it staggered?
It's-
So everybody
Every
has a
town
different one?
or municipality
Is
has
a
its
different
own
date.
deadline. Yeah.
So that should mean there should be more people available. It's not as though it's all towns are doing this for that
Yeah.
date. Okay.
Everybody takes their readies and, yeah.
That was 10 years ago, but do we have the older RFP, RFQ, whatever it was?
Yes, that's what I'm gonna go back and get and send to you guys. Because we keep files.
Terrific. Do we need any other formal action on that? I
No,
don't think so.
as long as you're comfortable with that,
Yep.
then I'll do my stuff and we'll meet it and talk about it again.
Andrew's not here, so we will skip the report from Scrog. And Kathy, anything you'd like to report from the Housing Committee?
The only thing I want to report is that our concentration is really on getting planning expertise to allow us to just execute the different recommendations we have for our housing plans. So we had initially had a promise from the Department of Housing to get planning funding in from a special initiative. And then following up with them, I found out that got targeted to Fairfield County. So I got a little annoyed with that, but they said we could possibly get a carve out of funding from the Department of Housing, working through the SCROG. So I'm working with Ben Lovejoy now from the SCROG to work on getting the funding from the state so we could get some technical assistance to help us with some of the the work, the amendments, and planning aspects of the housing plan. So.
Great. Any questions for Kathy? And Chris, anything from zoning enforcement?
I did send you an email. I got a phone call complaint from someone different regarding the Chris signs. When you approved it at your last meeting, there was a stipulation on it that the signs were not to be any larger than what was represented to you in the course of the hearing. So since then, there have been some additional, the sign itself hasn't enlarged, but there are sub-signs for selling Christmas trees and hay rides. And so, given the history of this, I wanted to ask you if that did or did not conflict with the condition that you had within the permit that you wrote.
I've not seen the sub-signs. Are they attached to the
They are
big
not
signs?
attached to it, they are separate
So
signs.
it's
So
a
there's
big sign that's
total of
growing a lot of little signs.
There's a total of now 6 signs, 3 on each side. So the main sign, and then a sign for hay rides, and then a sign for trees being sold. Previously, there was a pumpkin, just a pumpkin, to show that there were pumpkins being sold. But I'm not touching this one, I need.
Can I ask, and I'm the new guy here, so I'm not going to ask you to rehash the entire history, but what was the nature of the complaint?
That they were, the person who called said that they were familiar with the condition, they watched the public hearing, and that the sign wasn't to be any bigger. And so the thing is that there are additional signs. They said 7 because there's also the small sign that you see around town that says Chris Ice Cream. I didn't count that as an additional one because that's been there throughout the whole thing. So these are 2, on each one of the corners there are 2 additional smaller signs, which in the course of the hearing were sometimes used in other towns for other farms, but it was never represented with this particular application that that was something that they envisioned doing. So, I
So
don't know.
just to be clear, the person making the complaint is not alleging any kind of specific insult or injury as a result of these smaller signs. They're just concerned about a violation of the
They're
permit.
concerned that there were now 7 signs where there had been previously just 3.
Thank you.
Should probably pull out the calendar, see how many hearings we can have about it.
Do you have what the exact verbiage of what was passed?
You just basically said that the signs were not to be enlarged beyond that which was approved at the meeting.
Or did they actually have to comply with our regulations of signs?
Andrew had made the amendment, and he was just talking about not having the signs enlarged. He was gonna go look at them, and I thought if he was here, since he was the mover of that.
Has anyone looked at?
saw
I drove
it.
by.
I haven't
My
seen
kids
it.
were yelling. They're not small additions. They're sizable.
And are
I mean,
those
just
like,
look at the signs of children, there's more of them than there were before.
Yeah.
I mean, instead of making this into a big production, I mean, I think it'd be nice, like if a gentle phone call was made, that, so it was in the spirit of what was passed, we don't wanna turn this into an issue, you wouldn't mind abiding by what was passed, that'd be great. It's turning into an issue serves nobody.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I agree with that, and to the extent, I do vaguely recall the story of the farm-related signs that would seasonally have something that changed on them.
Yeah, that-
I was always envisioning that would be like an addition to that sign, not the multiplication of signs. So if they want to,
Yeah. If they put something over the
They
current
put
sign that
something
shed like hay rides kind of
Yeah.
over their logo, that would feel like more of a
keeping within the
reasonable-
bounds of the
So within
sign.
the fascia of the large sign, if they want
Yeah.
to say something seasonal,
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
Stick in
fascia of the large
stay in
sign.
Yeah.
the lane of which
Yeah.
they have
Okay.
opportunity for signage.
Yeah.
Did you guys limit them to what can be put on the sign? Like, is it a wayfaring sign or is it an advertisement sign?
No.
Well, there has to be an advertising sign for us to have jurisdiction over that, because we don't control, wayfaring signs.
nor can you control the verbiage.
But we can try to keep them within the 4 corners of the existing signs.
Are they still selling the ice cream?
Yeah.
They close for the season, no?
No, as far as I know, they stay open.
Selling ice cream and Christmas trees right next to
Oh.
it.
It's warm, climate change. Have ice cream on it.
I guess, yeah.
As long as they're not within
Okay.
300 feet of the school.
Is that enough guidance?
Yeah, I have emails, so I can send a friendly email, and then that way there's a little bit of a paper trail, but not a,
Yeah.
oh my God, what did I get in the mail from them today?
Appreciate it. Anything else on your list?
Nope.
Okay, is 7 o'clock. Are we willing to do an hour till 8 o'clock of review? Is that okay? I'll take that silence as a yes. We will do an hour till 8 o'clock, and I appreciate it. I have no idea where we last left off.
Yeah, but Kathy had asked, and
I know.
I was trying to hunt and find out where we left off.
I have it on the computer if you want to look at that.
I'm showing changes up to 3.3 liquor establishments, and nothing beyond that.
Is the liquor establishments part of the liquor and cannabis update that we did anyway? So that may have
Yeah.
jumped.
But we were deleting the reference to club and changing it to course, golf course. So it's still appropriate, given the changes that we made with the cannabis regulations.
Section
Three-
3.3 what?
3.3 HH,
Page one?
so that one, put to bed. And so now you're on firearms and associated goods, which is JJ.
Do you have a page number on that, Chris, on your version?
In the draft one, it's page 80.
Oh, we went that far.
Really?
You have to cite it to.
Not in my.
I know, no, it's a different version.
Is that a PDF or is that a like?
No, I had it on my desktop.
Section
Well, but that's
I don't think
draft
that's- yeah.
without all
We have a
the-
different. Yeah, no. It's KK. JJ 96.
Firearms and associated.
96 is
Going
this
into
one.
Oh, okay.
Firearms and associated use. That's good.
So we got pretty far.
So 96
Yeah.
in the draft that has.
Okay,
the
Chris, thank you.
corrected change.
So, yeah, we are pretty far. Okay, great.
Yeah,
Good.
getting it.
I'm glad you're optimistic about the distance we have traveled
Well, look
versus
at
the,
Mr. Chairman, you have this is done and this they got.
How is yours? Mine to go is much thicker.
Oh, maybe I didn't print it out.
Maybe you. Unless I'm missing.
All right, page 96.
So that I make sure I'm helping, what's the purpose of this portion of the meeting?
We're making minor changes and revisions to the existing town regulations. Mostly errors that would be a Scribner's error, or if something's been repeated 2 or 3 times, or if something says page 20 and there's no page 20 or something. So it's sort of more minor.
Got it.
It's less policy, more trying to make it all hang together.
Thank you.
and
Sure.
this is, depending on the version you're looking at,
Going into steps.
it is a
Stuck in
version that was updated by an outside consultant
Yeah.
to sort of highlight those parts of our zoning rules that just didn't make sense.
I'm looking at 6722. Is that a similar version?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The one with comments is the kind of question. And apologies, what section are we in? My computer was being.
JJ.
3.3 JJ, which.
It's 96 on the one that has the cover that looks like this.
It's page 96 in the comment one.
So it's firearms and associated goods in the highlighted section up at the
Right.
top.
And, okay, thank you. And there were no suggested changes or edits?
By the consultant,
By the
no.
consultant,
Internet sucks.
no. Do we have any interest in changing our gun shop laws? Or not at this point?
How many gun shops are there in town?
There used to be.
There used to be one, but there is none now, I don't think. Okay, so then, going to KK on schools. Schools are allowed to use table 3.1.
We should ban schools.
Gosh, I'm a little out of practice for when we last did this. If there's no sort of comments from our
I think you can just keep
consultant,
rolling.
Yeah.
we'll keep rolling. So no comments on schools. LL is storage, which is reserved for future use. Although we do have, does that
Yeah.
mean storage?
We have some sections where we have a heading but no description, but I don't know that you want to tackle that right
We
now.
don't want to tackle that right now, but it's just,
Yeah,
I guess is what it is. MM is warehouse storage, wholesale sales with indoor storage. It's also reserved for future use. And N is outside storage. There are 2 highlights, except and exceptions.
Yeah, it seems like A should be included in the sub A, should be included in sub B, the exceptions. I think is what those highlights, is how I interpret those highlights.
So A is pulled out unnecessarily,
Yeah,
right? Just put it under B.
unless they're, right,
He didn't explain on the
Yeah.
margin why
Yeah.
he did that, so
Yeah.
we have to guess.
No. And he doesn't explain a lot of his highlights.
yeah.
That would be extra. We'd have to pay for that.
Okay.
Well, he was originally gonna come and review this with you in person, but that didn't happen in
Yeah.
a timely fashion.
Okay, okay.
I mean, I guess they're somewhat different in that the exceptions in B are,
I'm actually okay leaving it where it is, because
Fine with that.
the B exceptions
Yeah.
are about temporary
Yeah,
things,
yeah.
and the A exception is a specific situation about a front yard setback.
no, I agree.
Both a prohibition and an exception.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is true. Okay, so I think leave NN as
Yeah.
is. Everyone okay with that?
Mhm.
Scrolling down to OO telecommunications facilities. So, just for clarification, these are telecommunications facilities that are not governed by the siting council, so they are.
Right, so we've had, buildings where, like the Lender Building, I like to call it the Lender Building down in, the lower part of town, that has sleds on the roof that are used for, conveying signals, so it's not a tower per se, it's on an existing structure like a building. And then those fall under this. So for instance, when the telecommunication tower was put in the church steeple next door, that came to you, because it was an existing facility.
Makes sense.
There's a telecommunications tower in the steeple?
Yes.
Okay. I'm
So
fine.
it's a small list that you get to see, but there are things that have come before you.
Okay.
Yep.
So that all looks fine. So now we're on page 104 of the commented version, 105, I'm sorry, opportunity housing. So this is our new opportunity housing section. Which I don't think there are any proposed changes or edits from our consultant.
I just had a proposed change, only because I find it very confusing. On table 3.4D about the 2 units per parcel. It's on page 106. Because, you know, when I had initially read this, I was understanding that two-family meant that you had to have 1 unit be 60% median income, and that's not the case. So I don't see why that's even needed there. I know at the time you were just trying to make the case for the application from OCA, but I think at this point, this is just very confusing because it really doesn't serve any purpose to say, yeah, we'll let you, you know, income restrict your house, we'll let you do that. It just doesn't make any sense if it's not required.
So you would just strike within the parentheses on
I would
both
just take the
lines.
parentheses out because it says 60, but does that mean you can't do 30? Does that mean you can't do 80? I mean, it just, to me, it just makes things confusing. And if it's not required, then why even put it in there?
Any thoughts or reactions to that?
I agree, it's confusing.
Why is it in there?
It is in there because it was part of a request from an applicant for a specific change to our zoning regulations. So it fit under the umbrella of the various changes that were happening elsewhere to create this broader statute change, or this broader reg change. So at this point, it is untethered, frankly, from that.
Any two-family, regardless of how they're paid for could be a two-family under these provisions of just either getting a P, an S, or an SC.
Yeah.
So get rid of what's within
The parentheses in both of those, yes. Everyone in agreement with that? I'm fine with that.
So that means anybody can come in and open up a two-family home, one's 95%, the other one's 5%, like one little room. Is that what that
It just means that you can have a two-family home with no restriction on how they're if they're deed restricted or not. You know, if you choose to deed restrict them, go for it.
Yeah, Chadi, it's not a statement of the size of each of the units, but this, even as currently written, although confusingly, means that you have a right to have a two-family house anywhere in town by permit if it's served by water and sewer, or by site plan approval, if it is not served by water and sewer, except for if it's in a public watershed area, it needs a special exception under both of those situations. But that's our current rules. It just confuses people because there is that parenthetical reference. Okay.
And the definitions, affordable, is that?
Johnny, you may need to move your microphone closer.
So the definition of affordable, is that still makes sense with whatever is called affordable today?
You're looking at,
Like C1, is that?
Yes,
on
C1,
101?
3.4 C1.
That's the current definition.
Yeah, I don't think that's changed.
no, that's, yeah, well, I mean, they referenced the Connecticut General Statutes.
I think that's changed.
No, that's, yeah, well, I mean, they referenced the figures. And I just had one other just observation on page 111, the housing affordability plan. And the housing affordability plan is not like our housing plan, affordable plan. This is like the affordability plan that governs how you go into being in compliance with affordability for a particular site. And so under housing affordability F1, when they're talking about submitting their application for their housing affordability plan, the third bullet under A, I'm just not sure if the commission is the body that would be getting annual reports for verifying eligible households. Usually that's a staff position or somebody in town hall that would do that.
Well, we don't have a housing authority, so it typically would be a housing authority. And the town doesn't have one.
Right, I would think it would be just a town employee doing that, and not the commission doing that. I never saw where a commission would be verifying affordable housing units. You know, we might, and again, this is probably something we'll think about when we're doing our POCD. Maybe, you know, come up with a development type agency, or maybe when we have a planner, you know, on board, they could do that. Just in my opinion, I think the commission verifying that is not the proper role.
Well, the commission isn't verifying, the report is supposed to verify. The only thing I would say or note is that if it comes to you as a commission, it becomes a public record because it's a formal submission here and it gets recognized as such. Whereas if it's just coming into staff, it's not, I don't know that it matters that it's a public record.
So who's doing the act of verifying?
Nobody. It says that the person, entity, or agency is going to be submitting the annual report, which verifies to the commission. So the commission isn't verifying. The commission is just receiving a report that verifies that the affordable units and all that other stuff are in accordance with what they were supposed to be.
So how do we know that?
They're putting, I don't know.
Well, I know you're having somebody saying, yeah, we verify these units are, because usually, only because I used to do this, you know, you have to actually go out and verify that a
I
unit
can't
is
think of
affordable.
anybody in town that's a staff person that would be able to do that. So they would, at this point.
So you would-
So they're, you know, unless it's an affidavit, so they're swearing something, or, you know, it's something that's notarized, that somehow they're putting their signature and name on something, so there's a penalty if they, you know, or there's something that they have to be truthful about what they're saying.
So they're just, okay,
Yeah.
verifying that what they're doing is right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So are we okay with that at this stage of the
I
game?
just think we might want to revisit that down the road.
So I'm happy to flag that for revisiting. I do hear what you're saying. That is, if you're having them, they've built this thing, they're annually submitting a report saying that, yes, that the affordable units are actually occupied by folks who meet all the criteria that we've laid out for them. A couple things sometimes I'm worried about. Some of that may be private information we may not want disclosed publicly. I'd be worried a little in some regards about the sort of structure of having that come to us in an open meeting, depending what's in that verification. And I don't know if the standard verification is I sign on penalty of perjury that I have followed all the rules, and if I didn't, and you catch me, I can be fined X and Y.
To me, it wouldn't be looking at specific names or rental, you know, costs or something. It's just a statement that all of the units in this particular development are compliant at this point with the standards that they're supposed to be.
And Kathy, what I get, your question is, well, who audits that? Who's going to,
Yeah.
you know, to actually do a random sampling to say, okay, show us the information for
So
unit 22.
if we had staff that, you know, if you had a housing authority or something, you'd have enough people to be able to go out there and do that kind of stuff. But
I think I've heard other towns have hired consultants or nonprofits if they, you know, to do that type of verification. But if it's beyond an affidavit, it is, you know, actual income verification is onerous. It's, I mean, my agency does that, and takes up a lot of staff time.
Yeah, actually, that's stated in number 3 now that I read it, that we could use an independent third-party administrator.
I mean, one thing would be to obviously make the owners of the property do that and keep records and under penalty of perjury, and then accept just some sort of affidavit stating that. You know, if you do that enough years and you never check it, then people may start to abuse it, but yeah, no, it does present an issue that maybe we can discuss further at some other point.
So I don't think we need to change anything now, but I think that is part of when we hopefully have a development like this and are starting to manage what it means. Those are the types of things that we'd want to figure out an efficient process for that.
Depending on the development too, if you have something that's getting tax credit funding, or then they will have all of that and they'll be reporting to everyone else with all of that, and the town can just get, you know, insurance. Yeah.
Okay. So back to our only proposed change is to just clean up and clarify the parentheticals in table 3.4D, the 2 units per parcel. So no other changes to this section.
Can I ask some more questions, Rob?
Sure.
So section 3.4 is the only part of our regulations that covers affordable housing?
I believe so now.
who got rid of the affordable housing district?
So, based on section 3.4, and I'll need help interpreting, the only way we mandate affordable housing under the Connecticut General Statute is if there's a multifamily opportunity housing development going in. Is that how I interpret 3? So does that become even more restricted in the long term?
Well, I mean, there's going to be some proposed changes to this, regulation from the housing committee. Because, a couple things, and that's not, part of this exercise, we're just reformatting, we're not
I
changing.
get it, yeah.
But it is restricted, I mean, to have like a 3, if you want to do a 3-unit multifamily housing, and then you have to do, affordability, requirements on that. I think you want to look into other regulations that, where the affordability requirements don't kick in until you have 10 units. Because then you're able to pencil out a project. If you have a 3, then you're just kind of like, it just becomes cost prohibitive, and you're actually preventing the development of that type of housing.
I understand. My only concern is, I know we talked about this before, is the exercise we're going through here. It's already taking us so long.
Right. We're not talking about changing anything.
Yeah, and I'm afraid that it'll take us even longer to get through the substantial changes to this document. And then I don't know if that's going to work well or not. And I don't know if that's going to meet our overall requirements for the town and the state. We've struggled just to get this far. We haven't done anything substantial. That's my whole concern. So.
Well, the housing committee is going to be, we're going to be coming here and recommending zoning changes, but that's not part of this exercise. I think we should just get through the reformatting so we can at least get them published out there.
And Jeff was glass half full that we're more than halfway through already.
We've been working on this for a year.
Yeah, so Chadi, I think I definitely hear what you're saying. But I do wonder, we do have some other, for our senior housing, is that any of that necessarily affordable or no? We do have, no. Okay, so this is currently our only sort of affordable housing provision, so I think you're
Where
correct.
it's mandated, but that doesn't preclude someone from,
Yeah, if somebody wants to
To
put
do it, they could do it.
a income restriction on their true housing development, they could do that, but I'm not sure why anybody would do that. But
well, the development that's on Lucy is all affordable. Senior housing, whatever you want to call it.
yeah, well, that was a tax credit deal,
I understand, but that's all
Right.
affordable.
right?
Right, so Chadi, I think we're going to try to go through this as fast as we can.
I get it. All right, thank you.
All right, so no other changes to 3.4? Okay, so I'm now on section 4.0, bulk and dimensional data.
A lot of highlights.
So I'm looking at the comments on page. The one I have has a note to you, Chris, that we should check
Yeah,
all
no, I
these
know.
because the printed file and electric files are not clear in which zones or in which columns.
They appear to be in the correct columns.
Okay. Okay, let's start with, under the general bulk regulations, there's this exception in italics at the beginning where the notes from our consultant of why is this here, and why does it apply to everything? And it's kind of hidden in the bulk section. Is there any reason to think that this was just limited to conflicts between the provisions of these bulk dimensional regulations? As written, it says these regulations, capital R regulations, which could be interpreted as the entire 232 pages.
Well, for instance, if a statute, which recently happened, where we have to change our regulations to comply regarding group and childcare, where they removed the ability of a commission to require a special exception permit. So that's not a bulk regulation, that's a use regulation. So in a sense, it doesn't make sense that it's in here because it does apply, I think, to the entirety of the regs.
Is it anywhere else?
I don't recall reading it anywhere else in this.
I'm sorry, you said the childcare law, we have to rewrite our regs because,
They changed the statute.
but so this thing would say that the more restrictive statute, which would be our regs, applies.
So even that would be contradictory to
Right,
a
I mean,
statute that imposes
Yeah, I
a
mean,
lighter
yeah.
regulatory structure.
I'm not, yeah,
So in that case, it doesn't, in that case, that's wrong.
yeah. I'm just,
That's-
is, at least in terms of, I mean, unless I guess it's any other law of Woodbridge, oh, maybe this is not state law, I don't, I guess the question is, what work is this doing? Do we need it to be here? If there are conflicts between our zoning regulation and other regulations, laws, ordinances, maybe that we want to hash through if it comes up and not have this blanket thing that doesn't seem to be that useful.
Or necessarily legally correct if
Yes.
there is a
Yeah.
superseding statute.
Exactly.
So a state statute should take
Yeah.
precedent over anything we're doing
Yeah.
at the municipal level.
Yeah.
So it seems contrary to
Yeah.
could we just delete it?
Yeah, that was my, yes, I mean, if it's not doing it's not serving a purpose, then.
And just for the record, which is why I pulled this out. Don't even. So this, in our old copy, was located here, sort of attached kind of to the table, which again seems an odd place to sort of throw this in.
Oh, I see.
And that exception wasn't even another paragraph, it was just simply right attached to the top of this table. Which the lawyer in me was read that as limiting it just to
Yeah.
this table and our other regulations, but I don't think it's doing a whole lot of purpose, so I'm happy to delete the italicized exception.
Everybody good with that?
Sure.
Yes.
So Ben, this is one of those oddities and dead ends and other sorts of things that we're just trying to make sense of.
Someone put it there for a reason years ago, we just can't figure out
Well,
what it is now.
this may, without having those regs here, this may have been something that came in during the 2019 wholesale revision, so it may not have been there except
Prior to that.
brought in from Hampton.
Okay.
So the proposal is to just delete table 4.1?
No, not the table, just this, just this italicized paragraph exception, which is highlighting a conflict
Ah,
that could arise between ill-defined regulations and other laws and ordinances, which doesn't seem to necessarily follow the law of, which would be controlling anyway. So I think it's a mess that we should delete.
so, I mean, I read it as if there's a provision in these regulations that is more restrictive than something that is set forth by, for example, state statute, but which is not, a mandate, that the more restrictive town regulation would control. Right, so if there's a town regulation that's more restrictive, that is not in violation of state law, that it would control. Is that?
So you could read it that way, but then it's not serving any real purpose. So if that state statute wasn't
I see.
required, if it was just towns may choose to do X if they want to, and we instead chose to do Y, it wouldn't matter whether it's more or less restrictive than
I see.
that statute.
Sure.
Back to deleting it. Everyone okay?
I'm fine with it.
Okay, so we'll delete that paragraph exception italics for not making sense.
This is fun. This is good.
Now we're in the table on the page 114, and there's sort of a highlighted. Gosh, can I even?
There's a highlight right under there about the transect districts, is that?
Is that what the footnote is?
No, this, I don't know if you can see up here, T2,
Transect district?
is that supposed to be does transect have a meaning that I don't,
So
or is that
that's
transit?
no, it's a transect. It's a carryover from the Hampden regs.
What does it mean?
It was just a form of,
Transect?
yes. And then, yes. We used to just have, we didn't have transect districts, and then they set forth the criteria of how you develop the lot. And so that came from Hampden, and then that didn't get applied to residential A and B. It only got applied to the other 3 residential districts, and then the 2 new transect districts that were created to identify municipal or nonprofit-owned properties and how they could be used.
Is the question, what does transect mean? Because I like that defined, please.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, start my question. Is that, yeah,
It's in,
Straight line or narrow section through an object or natural feature across the Earth's surface along which observations are made or measurements taken. It also has a verb.
is there a definition B as applied to zoning law?
Applies to town of Woodbridge.
Yes. I mean, is it,
Transect is a path along which one counts and records occurrences of the objects of study. There are several types of transects. Some are more effective than
There was a
others.
whole methodology that was sort of coming into vogue a few years ago. I think it's still used.
Yeah.
And it was a certain way of, you just had section A, section B, that type of thing,
Yeah.
right? So then they tried to put in it,
Yeah.
you had farming farther out from cities and you had cities inside. Then you had different transportation between those sections. So some of the language came out
Okay.
from that. So there's a whole methodology behind it. We adopted it in part, but it got to be a mess, and now it just makes our regs more complicated. Maybe that was my opinion,
Yes.
but.
So I know we don't define it in our
no, we
definitions.
don't. I mean, we describe what those transect districts are in table 1.1 on page 5 of this section that we're looking at. But
And Chris, I do note that back on page 31, there was it was highlighted again there in another legend. Did we change anything there, or did we skip over it at that point?
hang on a second. Page 31?
31 on the edited version, so it's section 3.2 uses
We
permitted.
didn't address anything there.
Okay,
Nope. We just left it alone.
so, okay, we're still on 113. Is there any reason to?
So, I mean, if it's next to T2, and that's the only thing that's a transect district, we can just delete it, because the title of the district is either T3BB all the way down, so if
And
that,
all the T districts are transit
Transect,
districts?
yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
so delete it because it doesn't need to be only in front of T2. That still doesn't fully explain why we have them, or why they're still a good thing.
Any else for the POCD?
Go ahead, Ben, this is,
I'd like to ask a question about this italicized text one more time. Sorry to
sure.
pull us back in time. Is it possible that this was written to somehow protect, like, regulations that a homeowners association or neighborhood association might choose to put in place to kind of promote a more restrictive land use philosophy, so that somebody who didn't like the homeowners or neighborhood association's regulations couldn't come to TPZ and say, these regulations are not consistent with the town's, they're more restrictive, I want to be subject to the town's regulations. I'm just trying to understand why this might have been created in the first place and what purpose it might serve.
historically, within the town, we've never enforced any development restrictions which may be in place. So that we have subdivisions that say, you can't have a clothesline, or you can't have a this or that. We don't go chasing those. And if they are aggrieved by them, then they go to their homeowners association and
Okay.
say, let's change it, or not.
Okay, I shall importune us no farther. Thank you.
Okay. Page 114, our residential districts. The first thing as I see is a highlighted footnote 1. I'm a little confused about, I'm now seeing blue notes and yellow notes.
Okay, so footnote 1 refers to, on page 116, item number 1.
Okay.
And that only applies to residential A.
So residential A in a watershed area must have a minimum of a 2-acre zone, or 2-acre buildable lot area?
Correct. And then all the lots have to have that 150-foot square inside.
Yeah, those are fine, yeah. Sorry. I don't remember.
So this was, in the original table, this was something that was added into the regulations, and so that's why it's there as a footnote. I mean, it was there before. I don't know why he put it in yellow. I have no idea.
Is 65,000 square feet not 2 acres?
No, it's a little less than an acre and a half.
Right. So this in essence creates it's using a footnote to create a a new rule for
Another layer.
another layer within zone A.
On public water supply watersheds, yeah.
Right. And it's not actually minimum lot area, it's minimum buildable? Is that a different thing?
Yes, because buildable has to exclude slopes over 25% and wetlands. So they were trying to create lots that had a workable area, because as the town got developed, there were more and more lots that were very, very challenging. And while you can throw a lot of money at anything and develop something, they were trying to make lots that didn't require a lot of excavation and fill and all that other good stuff to develop. Or to ensure that there was actually a portion of the lot that was feasible to be developed.
So is the complaint that this is all being done in a footnote?
I have no idea.
It's odd to put this type of thing in a footnote.
Other than if it
I mean,
came
it
in,
does seem odd.
no, if it came in later and it was just the convenient way to do it.
Yeah.
At the time, it must have made sense.
So
Way back in 2001.
are they referring to just the part of town that are near the reservoirs?
It's a twofold thing. So if you're on a public water supply watershed, which doesn't mean you're necessarily next to a reservoir, it means that topographically you drain into some sort of public water supply watershed, whether it's an aquifer or a reservoir, then you would need a minimum of 2 acres of land on a new lot. But anything that existed prior to that, because originally zoning was even less than that, it went to 65,000 square feet in 1963. But then the buildable square still applies throughout.
Is a drinking water supply watershed the same thing as a public water supply watershed?
Mhm. It's a drinking water supply, whether it's an aquifer or a reservoir. We don't have any aquifers that the local water companies have within here. There are towns that have lands that are aquifer watersheds, but not in Woodbridge or Bethany.
Kathy, are you highlighting that because this was something that he didn't highlight, that we'd use
I
public
have
water?
no idea why he highlighted
Well,
it.
No,
I
no.
just didn't know whether or not drinking water supply is more sacred than public water supply. That's
It's
why
the
I didn't
same
know
thing.
whether
It's the
that's-
same
They're the
thing.
Okay.
Yeah. It's odd that we're using two different,
Yeah.
Right, so I think we just
Phrases
should
for
be
them?
consistent in terms of what we're calling what.
so we could change footnote 1 to say within a public water supply watershed?
Yeah.
Because that's the
Yeah.
term we've used throughout. I don't advise that we try to, in this,
I wouldn't change it.
I wouldn't change it out of the footnote and try to change more here.
That would be a few hours.
Would it carry more weight if we italicized it? I retract that suggestion.
Thank you. I'm still gonna stay with the table
Okay.
on page 114. The next sort of addition is to clarify that the maximum building coverage is parentheses % of lot area.
It-
Is that how it's been used?
It's supposed to be the total lot area, yeah, because they used to break it into 2 components. They used to have housing coverage and then accessory dwelling coverage, or accessory building coverage, and then it was changed to just be, what's the difference, as long as we're looking at building coverage. You know, if you want to have a teeny tiny house and a big accessory building, why should we prohibit you from doing that? So that was the thought process when they changed this. So it's the total, it's the percentage of the total lot size.
And yet that second line says within that maximum 30%, let's say in zone B of building coverage, that limits accessory buildings to only be 3%?
This was, the challenge came in a residential A zone where someone wanted to do an art studio, I think, and they had more than one barn, and so the total, or more than one building, and so they were gonna have 2 buildings that were larger than the house in total area, and wasn't allowed under the thing. So they only changed it in the residential A district, because at that point, the smaller districts, it kind of made sense to reduce, you know, because you just didn't have a big area. I mean, when you're working with a 4,000 square foot lot, your house takes up most of it.
So why do we restrict section B for maximum building coverage, I'm sorry, for a limitation on accessory building, but you don't limit A?
What?
Right, it says there's no limit on accessory buildings in now in A.
Because the maximum building coverage, which was a complement of both the house and any accessory. Maybe it's not clear, but that's the way it was intended.
That's not
to-
how I interpret it. Those are two separate things to me, right?
So maximum building coverage, any building, whether it's an accessory building or the house,
Or
is
a barn
15
or a detached garage.
is
or-
15%.
Yeah.
Like, so if I had a main house and an accessory combined, they can't be 15%?
They can be a maximum of 15%.
Maximum 15%.
Right. And they're saying in the smaller districts that the building coverage has is a larger percentage because the lots are much smaller, and out of that, they're limiting the size of the accessory building. So I don't know that you need that in the other ones if you're just saying maximum building coverage is blank, and just let it go at that. What difference does it make no matter what zone you're in? I don't know. Up to you.
Does anyone have a strong opinion about this? Because I think part of at least in the highlighted version, there is some confusion. That second line could be confusing of, wait a minute, is this an additional opportunity for building coverage, or is it subsumed in the overall maximum? And why do we want to dictate that in any district?
That's what I'm saying. You may want to get rid of the limitation on accessory buildings and just keep the maximum building coverage and let people decide what they want to do.
I can imagine a reason why people would be against that. There are, and I'm driving around, not in Woodbridge, but I've seen people who have their house and then they have a full-size indoor basketball court or like a hockey rink in the back, and it looks like a huge industrial shed. And I've seen that, and I can imagine people being against that kind of but if it's under the maximum lot coverage, then I would tend to think that people can decide on their own how they want to allocate that. I think I would be in favor of removing those restrictions for the other districts, but I can see an objection.
So is the question, do we want to control what the town looks like by having those restrictions?
I mean, that's what the rest, we're, the setbacks and all the rest of it is controlling what the town looks like.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So
But do we
I
want to
think,
control how
Yeah.
different buildings, like I could build a 1,000 square foot home and
Yeah.
a 5,000 square foot barn.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you could
That's
have,
something.
And you can do that in the A district right
Yes.
now.
Correct.
But we say that you can't do that in
The B district.
B
Yeah.
or any of our transect districts, as I'm now going to call them.
yeah.
Ben, did you have something you wanted to?
I was going to ask about whether there are differences for the setbacks, et cetera. I see those just down the table a little bit. It looks like the setbacks are at least as restrictive, or more restrictive. Is that right? For the accessory buildings, because I think the concern would be if the setback were not as far for the 6,000 square foot indoor hockey rink or whatever. I don't understand the T2, 20-foot minimum plus building setback, so that's 20 feet plus the 48 above.
I also have to look at the definition, what's the difference between
And
principal
T2
buildings, secondary
is
buildings,
one of
accessory
those odd districts.
Minimum side setback. So I mean, this is where a complaint might emerge, right? So there's a 3-foot setback on this T2. I just don't understand this T2 zone, or district, rather.
So 3 of them, the T3, BB, the C, and the D, are all residential districts. BB is directly up behind Brookside Market, where the lots are 15,000 square foot. They were created before zoning came into place, so they had to adopt them. Likewise, the C and the D. The Ds are very small lots. They're 4,000 square feet, so they're 40 by 100. And the Cs are 50 by 100, because they were originally subdivided back in the 1890s into 25 foot by 100 or 20 by 100 foot, so they had to incorporate those. So that's why you see the difference in front yard setbacks and side yard setbacks, because they're much, much smaller. When you get into the T2 and T1, those are basically agricultural lands or golf courses, things
No,
like that.
T2 is our municipal buildings.
Oh, are they only
Schools.
municipal?
Yeah, so T2 is weird because it's Beecher Road School, it's the firehouse,
It's agricultural land, woodland, grassland, sports fields, golf courses, cemeteries, and schools, according to our, on the map, it may be different.
no, okay, that helps because I was identifying some of them, but I
Yeah.
didn't know what the other one.
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. Whereas T1 is natural zone consisting of lands approximating or reverting to wilderness condition, okay? Including lands unsuitable for development due to topography, hydrology, or vegetation.
So that's our open space parks.
Maybe, yeah.
I'm sorry, which one was that? Which T was that?
T1.
Okay, so back to, and we may get stuck on this table as our closer. We were doing so well. in terms
You
of-
were, you've got 5 minutes left.
So let's go to the perhaps simpler question of, do we want to continue to have limitations on the accessory buildings percentage of the lot area, which only currently applies to residential zones, B, T3, BB, T3C, and T3D? Does anyone have any interest in keeping that, which otherwise seems somewhat confusing?
I think it's naturally self-limiting, so I don't see it as being necessary, because the lots are small, and the houses take up most of it, and.
Yeah.
go
I'm
from
fine
there.
deleting
Yeah.
that row of this table.
Yeah.
Everyone else okay with deleting that?
Go twice.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I don't feel strongly.
So what the counter argument is not deleting that row, but putting a restriction on A.
That was the whole point of it being changed. Was we had a house where somebody came, and they had a house that was, it's on Amity Road, and the person was an artist and had one storage building and was gonna put up another one to keep his artwork in. And he couldn't, because the restriction in here limited the size of the accessory buildings to a certain percent of the thing, and that's when they converted it over to 15% and said, it's your choice. You wanna have a small house and a big art studio, go for it. Or you wanna have horses and an indoor riding rink, go for it.
Discourage horses.
Is that the kind of thing that could be dealt with a special exception at any time, if there is a regulation in place?
Only if you made it as by special exception, or the other option they've got is to seek a variance from the zoning board of appeals.
Sorry, that's the word I was looking for.
Then they have to demonstrate what the hardship is, so this was trying to remove that threshold.
I can see a case in that person's situation where there was a hardship and there'd be a basis for a variance.
So the 15% would be on the total lot area,
Right.
not 65,000 square feet.
Right, so the,
Right.
you know,
So
the
five.
average lot is 65,000 square feet. So if you take 15% of that, you could have structures.
And 9,000, somewhere around a 9,000 total square foot
Right, so if it's a 10
structure.
acre lot, you can add a 60,000 square foot
Yeah.
dungeon.
Well, I mean, we have a site in town that is a farm that has a very large indoor riding marina. And
Yeah,
he's
and-
entitled to do it because he's got the acreage.
That makes sense, I don't want big garages popping up all over the place, right? Is that?
And we
what we're
have those
protecting
too,
against?
where people are car aficionados and they have
Yeah.
very polished interiors and
Well, if I can't have them, then they can't have them.
they, well,
Yeah, I guess my question is, if we just wholesale remove the row, then we learn later what the interesting exception that we couldn't dream up in this meeting is, that is vexing someone in town. Whereas if we have the opportunity to grant a variance, there doesn't seem to be harm in having that row.
The
in
variance,
place.
I mean, from my experience, the Board of Zoning Appeals hardships are.
hardship of land typically.
Yeah,
do
it's not, you know, I'm an artist and I want to do this and it's the, no, I can't think of, but they don't do it lightly.
Okay.
Yeah, they
they're-
shouldn't be giving them out like candy.
Yeah, it's a, I've only dealt with it in the commercial standpoint, but I want to do something that you're not allowing me is not, it has to be a very unique situation and a unique, something that's unique to your land or generally unique to your parcel of land.
If there's only one situation in recent memory that kind of comes to the attention of this commission, why is that? Is it that there really aren't that many legitimate reasons to build massive accessory buildings? Or is it that the regulation has been in place and it's been doing the work of preventing these massive garages that Chatty's not allowed to have from popping up around town?
No, the current regulation for the A zone lets you do that.
Right,
Form of
yes.
So if anything, removing this limitation or making it basically even across the board is sort of,
It seems like it would be in the interest of equity.
yeah.
One of the things that's come before this commission in my brief time on it is that there is difference between, you know, properties up here and properties down,
Okay.
you know, by the freeway, and that trying to, in, you know, especially in light editing, that we can address that, at least in my perspective, seems like a reasonable goal to.
Okay.
But
I would also say, I haven't seen an abuse of having the 15% where it's not called out one way or the other. You know, people aren't.
Okay, so back to what will likely be our last item. Are we going to delete this row on limitations on accessory buildings? It looks like we're generally okay deleting that row.
Is that okay?
That's okay.
That's okay.
Maximum lot coverage, total impervious. I know it wasn't highlighted. How is that different from the maximum building coverage?
it takes
It-
driveways.
Driveways?
It takes driveways, it would incorporate tennis courts, which aren't considered structures.
And we only have requirements in the T1 and T2 too. For
Yeah,
those.
which doesn't make any sense.
Chatty, you can pave your entire lot.
I'm gonna put a parking lot at that corner of the street,
Okay.
charge money.
Which I'm not suggesting we do change here, but it may be something to flag for why don't we have impervious
So,
Restrictions, yeah.
My clock just hit 8 o'clock. Are we?
We are.
We're done?
We are.
Okay.
We are.
So thank you for doing that. Guess I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in
Wait a
favor?
minute, who seconded?
I did. You know,
Any
I thought you
discussion?
moved it.
No, Paul moved.
Paul moves
Oh,
everything.
Of course, Paul.
Tonight, he initiated everything we did,
Yeah.
so that's what the action was.
Thank
on
you.
that.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you all. Ben, welcome.